Good evening.
Good evening.
Prior to tonight's meeting, J.C. Harris, a seventh grader at R.K. Smith School, will lead us in a prayer. J.C., will you please come to the podium? Before she starts with her prayer, I'd like to let you know a few things about J.C. She's a member of the Young Ladies of Distinction, the RKS Choir, the Student Council, Dance Unlimited, and she is the proud daughter of Shonda Harris, our Principal of the Year.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, as we continue this school year under different circumstances, we thank you for the continued energy and the spirit that you have given us all to work through these times. Let us continue with the same enthusiasm and love for learning that we started with in August. Help each one of us fulfill our destiny. I ask that you bless every decision made tonight and throughout the remainder of this year by our board, executive staff, administration, teachers, and all staff members at every school be in the best interest of children. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
I'd like to ask Mr. Al Sufford to please lead us in the prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, we'd like to thank you, J.C., and wish you well this coming school year and for the rest of your education. Thank you very much. Well, now I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let the record show that all members of the St. Charles Parish School Board are present, along with our school superintendent and Ms. Shelley Babineau, our board secretary. The first item on the agenda is 2.01, a resolution in memory of Mr. Dwayne Alexander. And I'd like to ask Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's truly my honor to read this resolution. Resolution in memory of Mr. Dwayne Alexander. Whereas Mr. Dwayne Alexander served as a vehicle mechanic helper for 32 years in the St. Charles Parish Public School System, be it resolved that the St. Charles Parish School Board herein expresses to the family of the late Dwayne Alexander its sincere sympathy in this their time of sorrow. And be it further resolved that a page in the October 21st, 2020 minute book be set aside for the sole purpose of inscribing thereon this resolution, and that a copy of this resolution be presented to Mr. Alexander's family. I move approval of this resolution, Mr. President.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard, second by Mr. Narcan, that we approve this memory of Mr. Dwayne Alexander. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, there being none, resolution passed. Superintendent?
Let Joy go.
The next resolution is 2.02 in memory of Ms. Suzanne Gibson. And I'd like to ask Mr. Al Suffren if he would read that resolution for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolution in memory of Ms. Suzanne Gibson. Whereas Ms. Suzanne Gibson served as a teacher for 41 years, 35 with the St. Charles Parish Public School System. Be it resolved that the St. Charles Parish School Board herein expresses to the family of the late Suzanne Gibson its sincere sympathy in this, their time of sorrow. And be it further resolved that a page in the October 21st, 2020 minute book be set aside for the sole purpose of inscribing thereon this resolution, and that a copy of this resolution be presented to Ms. Gibson's family. And I move for approval of this resolution.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffren, seconded by Mr. Nakane, that we approve this resolution. Please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. Is the family here for Ms. Suzanne Gibson? Everyone here? Okay. We'll move on to item 2.03, resolution in memory of Mr. Robert Greene. I'd like to ask Mr. Alexander if he would read that, please.
It's my honor, Mr. President. Resolution in memory of Mr. Robert Greene. Whereas Mr. Robert Greene served as a maintenance worker for 19 years in the St. Charles Parish Public School System, be it resolved that the St. Charles Parish School Board herein expresses to the family of the late Robert Greene its sincere sympathy in this, their time of sorrow. And be it further resolved that a page in the October 21st, 2020 minute book be set aside for the sole purpose of inscribing thereon this resolution, and that a copy of this resolution be presented to Mr. Greene's family. And I move for approval of this resolution.
It's been moved by Mr. Alexander, seconded by Ms. Bernard, that we approve this resolution in memory of Mr. Robert Greene. Please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Superintendent? We'll just wait a moment while the principals are being seated.
Well, this, yeah, that's right.
I think we're ready now. Item 2.04 is the National Principals Month Proclamation. I'd like to ask Mr. J. Robichaud to read that for us, please.
Be my pleasure. Whereas the St. Charles Parish School Board has declared the month of October 2020 as National Principals Month in coordination with the efforts of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the American Federation of School Administrators, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, working with the U.S. Congress to designate National Principals Month and resolutions thereof, and whereas principals are expected to be educational visionaries, instructional leaders, assessment experts, disciplinarians, community builders, public relations experts, budget analysts, facility managers, special programs administrators, and guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandates and initiatives, as well as being entrusted with the education and development of young people, the most valuable resource. And whereas principals set the academic tone for their schools and work collaboratively with teachers to develop and maintain high curriculum standards, develop mission statements, and set performance goals and objectives for schools to achieve educational excellence. And whereas the role of the principal is more important than ever as teachers, students, and community members rely on principals for leadership and support, especially during the 2019-2020 school year and preparing to reopen schools for the 2020-2021 school year during a continuing pandemic. We therefore commend school principals for their flexibility, adaptability, and understanding. And whereas the St. Charles Parish School Board honors such exemplary elementary and secondary level public school leaders committed to serving students from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 in their profession. And whereas the St. Charles Parish School Board recognizes outstanding elementary, middle, and high school principals who have succeeded in providing high-quality learning opportunities for students, as well as their exemplary contributions to the profession. And whereas to honor and recognize the contribution of all school principals and assistant principals at all grade levels in ensuring that every child has access to high-quality education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in honor of the service of all elementary, middle, level, and high school principals, and to recognize the importance of their school leadership so that every child has access to high-quality education, and to celebrate school leader accomplishments, the month of October 2020 is hereby designated in St. Charles Parish to be National Principals Month. And I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Robichaud, second by Ms. Bernard, that we accept the resolution for the National Principals Month Proclamation. Any discussion? Please vote. Cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. I'd like to call on Dr. Ortling to please make some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I turn it over to our executive directors of secondary and elementary schools, I'd like to wish on behalf of the school board and executive staff and personally thank each and every one of you for your sacrifice, extraordinary leadership, and commitment to your schools, faculty, and most importantly, your students. Your role as principal, especially this year, has been pressure-packed, yet critical to the success of every person in your buildings. You've taken on the immense challenge of prioritizing teaching and learning on 2 learning platforms while overcoming daily pandemic challenges in exemplary fashion with can-do attitude and resolute determination. Thank you for being adaptable, flexible, and understanding as you continue to see the possibilities instead of the impossibilities, so the hopes and dreams of each and every child can be fulfilled, because every student matters and every moment counts. Thank you. We appreciate you. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our Executive Director of Elementary Schools, Ms. Angele Babin, and our Executive Director of Secondary Schools, Mr. Chris Kimball.
Thank you, Dr. Ortling. I would like to recognize the principals who are in attendance this evening, so please stand if you're not already standing and give us a wave if you are. At this time, we'll recognize our elementary principals. Dr. Tanisha Abden, Sam Bueller, Shannon Diodne, Shonda Harris, Barbara Kenny, Rebecca Mathern, Christina Mullins, Kelly Ortling, Lisa Perrin, and Vanessa Terry.
Good evening. I'd like to recognize our secondary school principals that are in attendance tonight. Mr. Harold Blood, Ms. Elaine Fitzgerald, Mr. Jason Midair, Ms. Lasan Porter, and Dr. David Scheckschneider. Thank you very much.
Just to add a comment, I guess we can't thank you enough for the leadership that you all have displayed this current year. This is was totally out of the box of what we're experiencing with the COVID-19, and you guys really stepped up to the plate and provided the leadership necessary to keep the school running as well as it's being run and maintained. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, from every board member who sits up here. Thank you very much. So we'll let you guys go home. Get ready for tomorrow. The next item on the agenda is 2.05, Red Ribbon Week Proclamation. I'd like to ask Mr. John Smith to please read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Red Ribbon Week Proclamation. Whereas all children in St. Charles Parish are entitled to attend a school free of drugs and violence, and whereas we are committed to nurturing the full potential of St. Charles Parish youth, and whereas the Department of Education and statewide drug-free schools and communities personnel believe in and strive for a school environment free of drugs and violence, and whereas all children of St. Charles Parish, all citizens of St. Charles Parish join with the teachers, administrators, and parish and state officials in encouraging our youth to become productive citizens and to maintain healthy lifestyles. Now therefore be it resolved that the St. Charles Parish School Board does hereby support October 23 through 31, 2020 as Red Ribbon Week and encourages its school officials to participate in drug awareness activities and be strongly committed to drug-free, healthy lifestyles. Be it further resolved that the St. Charles Parish School Board encourages all the students of St. Charles Parish to pledge to be happy, be brave, be drug-free. I move approval of this resolution. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Robichaud, that we approve this resolution. Please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. And now I'd like to call Ms. Sherman Williams, please come to the podium for some remarks.
Good evening, and thank you, board members and superintendent, for accepting the 2020 Red Ribbon Week proclamation. I would like to read a brief history of the Red Ribbon Week. As a response to the murder of Enrique Camarena on February 7, 1985, the first Red Ribbon Week took place in 1988 as an 8-day celebration proclaimed by Congress of the United States. Camarena was a 37-year-old Drug Enforcement Administration undercover agent. Unfortunately, and most currently, the United States is in the midst of an opioid epidemic, seeing a shocking increase in overdoses and deaths from these highly addictive substances. In 2015, 58% of 12th grade students in the U.S. reported trying the deadly opioid heroin. It is estimated that 3.8 million Americans ages 12 and older are currently misusing prescription opioids. Subsequently, Red Ribbon Week campaigns are being used to introduce students to this widespread and destructive crisis and the impact of opioids on their bodies. So again, I thank you for accepting the 2020 Red Ribbon Week proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Superintendent, any comments? Maybe none. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 3.01 Board and Superintendent Recognition.
Employees. Alamance Elementary School employee was named the 2021 Louisiana State Elementary School Teacher of the Year, Angèle Bourgeois. School system employees were named as Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge winners. Here to present them to the board is Shell's External Relations Manager, Ms. Rochelle Touchard.
Pull this down here. Good evening, board members, superintendent. It's an honor to be here again, recognizing excellence within the school system. In Shell's ongoing efforts to provide more robust and innovative science education and lab experiences in schools near our assets, we have once again partnered with the National Science Teachers Association to award science lab curriculum, materials, and professional development to schools and science teachers that best demonstrated their ability to improve science achievement for students. At Shell, we believe it is important to foster creativity through hands-on experiences. The additional resources enable students to develop a problem-solving mindset that will lead to the energy solutions of the future. The Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge offers prize packages for one elementary, one middle, and one high school near our assets. Winning schools receive lab science materials to improve science education, and science teachers receive professional development to improve their content knowledge and instructional practices to inspire more students to pursue STEM careers. During this COVID environment, they have offered non-traditional support with interactive web seminars, and the usual summer face-to-face STEM forum is now moving to a virtual Engage 2020 conference, which will be held in November. Tonight, I have the honor to recognize 2 middle and 1 high school from St. Charles Parish selected and their outstanding teachers. The 2 middle schools will receive a $10,000 prize package, and the high school will receive a $15,000 prize package. First, let me introduce Harry Hurst Middle School teacher Julie Rexford and Principal David Scheck-Snyder. R.K. Smith Middle School teacher Jennifer Greene and Principal Harold Blood. And finally, Hahnville High School teacher Tyler Greene, a 2-time recipient, and Cecilia, that's what I meant, Tyler Dufresne. Sorry about that. You've only won it twice. And Cecilia Gillum, unfortunately, Principal Brian Lumore couldn't be with us tonight due to homecoming activities. And just some final comments, just thanks again. Just want to express not only as a partner with the school system, but as a parent, that I just commend the board, the superintendent for your vision. Particularly having my kids in school has been 2 thumbs up. But in these unextraordinary times, I know at Shell what we're going through and the enormity and the challenge of the task, and you have definitely delivered first class. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rochelle, and it's always a pleasure to have you and Shell sponsor events here in the school system and to recognize our teachers, students, and principals for the work that they do. So thank you very much for being a great partner with St. Charles Parish Public Schools.
Want to just take a short recess?
Okay, well, we take a short recess for people who want to leave, and then we'll continue with the recognition. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is 4.01, the minutes of the September 21st, 2020 committee meetings and the September 23rd, 2020 regular board meeting.
Move approval. Second.
I got approval by Mr. Otto Quinn and seconded by Mr. Dennis Knockin, and we approved the minutes of September 21st and September 23rd. Please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. 4.02 is a ratification of change order number 1, the Destrehan High School track replacement. The contract ratification included change order number 1 as follows. Liquidated damage for $9, for 9 days at $500 a day, which is $44,500. Partial remobilization due to tropical weather, $2,000. That's a negative. And seating in lieu of sod at the apron, there was $750 for that. The total of all changes is $3,250. The contract was extended by 39 calendar days due to weather delays, COVID-19 material delays, and assessed liquidated damage delays. The engineer recommends acceptance. Acceptance of ratification of change order number 1 will allow the district to make the necessary modifications to the existing contract. This recommendation was discussed with the board president, board vice president, and capital improvements chair. And this item was reviewed at the capital improvements committee meeting of the board on October 19, 2020, as aligned with goal D of the board's strategic action plan.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the ratification of change order number 1 for the Destrehan High School track replacement for a credit of $3,250.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Knockin and seconded by Mr. Suffren that we accept the ratification of change order number 1 for the Destrehan High School track replacement for a credit of $3,250. Any discussion?
Beautiful track.
I see
Job
the
well done,
engineers here.
gentlemen.
Mr. Hebert, I think everybody's pleased with the track. All right, sir. Please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. Item number 4.03 is a ratification of substantial completion of the Destrehan High School track replacement.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the ratification of substantial completion of the Destrehan High School track replacement. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Knockin, second by Mr. O'Quinn, that we approve the ratification of substantial completion of the Destrehan High School track replacement. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 4.04, the declaration of surplus buses, vehicles, tools, equipment, and furnishings. The recommendation that we declare that the buses, tools, and equipment and furnishings as surplus, authorize disposal in accordance with legal requirements, and retract 2 previously declared vehicles that were returned to the fleet. The various buses, tools, and equipment furnishings have been identified to be considered as surplus by the board. The district should declare these items as surplus to allow the board to dispose of them in accordance with legal requirements. In addition, 2 vehicles declared as surplus on July 15, 2020 will be removed from the surplus list and will remain in the fleet for alternative uses. This agenda item was presented at the Finance and Audit Committee meeting on Monday, October 19, 2020, and is aligned with Goal C of the District Strategic Action Plan.
Mr. President, I move that we declare buses, tools, equipment, and furnishings as surplus, authorize disposal in accordance with legal requirements, and retract the 2 previously declared vehicles and return to the fleet.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffering, second by Mr. Alexander, that we declare the surplus buses, vehicles, tools, and equipment and furnishes to be sent to auction. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 4.05, personnel items. The superintendent recommends that we approve these items as presented by the board. Any discussion?
Motion to approve.
A second.
Mr. Chairman? It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Nakhan, that we approve the personnel items presented to the board. There being no discussion, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 4.06, policy 4.10, equal opportunity employment, for its first reading. Upon review of board policy and procedure 4.01, equal opportunity employment, significant revisions were required. This agenda item was reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the board on Monday, October 19, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the board's strategic action plan.
Move approval.
A second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Nakhan, that we approve policy 4.01 for its equal opportunity employment for its first reading. Any discussion? There being no discussion, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 4.07, which is policy 4.08, employee investigations for its first reading. Upon review of the board policy and procedure 4.08, employee investigations, significant revisions were required. This agenda item was reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the board on Monday, October 19, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the board's strategic action plan.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Robichaud, seconded by Mr. Nakhan. That we have, Mr. Suffering, I'm sorry. I thought I heard Mr. Nakhan for a while. So you have that, Mr. Kevin? All right, so any discussion? If there being none, please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 4.08 of policy 4.10, Title IX, employee harassment for its first reading. Upon review of the board policy and procedure 4.10, harassment and significant revisions, including a title change, was required. The agenda items were reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the board on Monday, October 19, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the board's strategic action plan. Motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the revisions to Board Policy 4.10, harassment, Title VII, employee harassment, for a first reading.
Second.
been moved by Mr. Suffren, seconded by Mr. Alexander, that we approve and accept the revisions of Board Policy 4.10 harassment, Title VII, employee harassment for its first reading. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 4.09, Policy 4.18, Non-Title IX, Non-Discriminatory Complaints and Grievances. Upon review of Board Policy and Procedure 4.18, complaints and significant revisions, including a title change were required. This agenda item was reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the Board on Monday, October 19, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the Board's Strategic Action Plan.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the revisions to Board Policy 4.18, complaints, non-Title IX, non-discriminatory complaints and grievances for first reading.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Alexander, second by Mr. Knockin, that we accept the revisions of Board Policy 4.18, complaints, non-Title IX, non-discriminatory complaints and grievances for its first reading. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 4.10, accounts payable for the month of September 2020. Invoices and other financial obligations of the board's district, the school district, are customarily paid weekly. Request for approval of these transactions is normally made at the board, to the board monthly. The board must approve expenditure of public funds under its jurisdiction. This agenda item was reviewed at the Finance and Audit Committee meeting of the board on Monday, October 19, 2020, and is aligned with Goal C of the board's Strategic Action Plan.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the accounts payable for the month of September 2020 in the total amount of $3,386,212.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffren, seconded by Mr. Alexander, that we approve the accounts payable for the month of September as presented to the board. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously, and it closes our business portion of the meeting. Next item on the agenda is the standing committee reports from each board member. Any board member would like to start? Mr. Smith?
Mr. President, the Personnel Committee met last Monday and reviewed the personnel notes as well as a number of policies and procedures that were brought before the board tonight for approval. I'd like to thank the board for reviewing those policies and for approving them tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else?
Mr. President, go ahead, Ms. Bernard.
Mr. President, the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee met on Monday, October the 19th. We had a committee meeting-only presentation by Principal Sam Bueller, the Social Emotional Learning Coach, Marquita George, Ms. Grenier, and also Angel Bavin. Ms. Angel Bavin presented information that was very informative, a comprehensive report that instructed the board as to how well spent our money has been at Luling through the addition of pre-K classrooms and social and emotional learning opportunities there.
Thank you, Ms.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard.
Mr. President, Capital Improvements Committee met Monday, the 19th, took up 5 items. First item was ratification of change order number 1, Destrehan High School track replacement. Second item was ratification of substantial completion, Destrehan High School track replacement. Both those items were presented at the board table and approved tonight. 3 additional items were taken up for committee meeting only. Those items were Community Education Program Spring 2021 update, St. Charles Parish Council on Aging update, and a 2019 sales tax bond issue project updates. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Nakhan.
Mr. President, the Finance and Audit Committee met on Monday, October 19th, and covered 3 items. One of the items was a constitutional amendment that's going to appear on the November 3rd, 2020 election ballot, and that's the amendment number 5, which is payments in lieu of property taxes. That was for committee discussion only. The committee also covered 2 items that did come before the full board this evening and were approved. Those items were the declaration of surplus buses, vehicles, tools, equipment, and furnishings, and also the accounts payable for the month of September 2020. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Suffren. At this time, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege. My committee didn't meet, but just like to remind everyone that we have a very important election coming up on November the 3rd. There's a number of items on the ballot besides the presidential, senatorial, and local. We have some constitutional amendments that's going to affect how we operate. So we'd like everyone to be diligent and with those 7 items, and please go vote. That's the best thing that we have in America, is the freedom to vote. So please exercise your right to vote. Thank you. Superintendent's reports, the next item on the agenda, 5.02.
Thank you, Mr. President. Health Clinical, Health Career Exploration, and Patient Care team members at the Satellite Center have started their Pink Link project. The goal of this project is to educate the community as well as raise awareness and funds for breast cancer research. The team members are selling pink paper links for $1 each as a way of raising the needed funds for this cause. As part of the fundraising process, team members from these courses set up a competition between the East and West Bank to see who will purchase the most links and therefore raise the most money for breast cancer research. The team members also seek participation from the community and local business and industry. The amount raised and winner of the competition will be announced at the Destrian-Hahnville High School football game, Battle on the River, on Friday, November 20th. Please go out and support this great cause. As a reminder, if attending any home football games, you must have a face covering and adhere to social distancing guidelines set by the State Fire Marshal. A limited amount of fans will be allowed on both the home and visitor sides of the stadium. If you cannot attend in person, please join online, where Satellite Center students stream home games at presstheplay.tv, and they have done a phenomenal job announcing those games this year. High school volleyball has begun district play, whereas cross country and swimming are in mid-season form and have competed in multiple meets respectively. As far as middle school is concerned, volleyball season is underway and football starts this week. Please adhere to all safety guidelines set forth while attending these events. Although attending a game may be different than in the past, we're excited for the opportunity to highlight our student athletes and student support groups. For full schedules, please visit each school's website. The website niche.com released its annual rankings this week on best schools and school districts in the country. This recognition takes into account more than just test scores. The 2021 rankings have St. Charles Parish Public Schools once again as the number 2 best school district in Louisiana and number 1 best school district in the New Orleans area. We also received several other noteworthy rankings that highlight our AAA school system. Number 1 best school district for athletes in Louisiana. Number 1 safest school district in the New Orleans area. Number 1 district with the best teachers in the New Orleans area. This information has been shared with the community on our social media pages and website. This recognition is a credit to strong leadership from our board members, our students' hard work, our employees' dedication, and our community's support of public education. You can view the complete rankings at our website. Every other year, the National School Public Relations Association Under 35 program recognizes young professional members who are making a difference for their school districts or education-related employers. In the fall of 2020, NISPRA announced its 5th class of 35 under 35, and our very own Ms. Stevie Crevetta was recognized for this prestigious honor and rightfully deserved. Congratulations to CV and her department for leading our communication efforts as a school system that far separate us from others. She is very much appreciated. Finally, as a reminder, daylight saving time ends on November 1st at 1 a.m. Remember to set your clocks back an hour. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Robichaud.
Motion adjourned. Second.
There's a motion to adjourn by Mr. Robichaud, seconded by Mr. Knockin. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.